Your legacy doesn't require you to achieve gold, to touch souls. Last night we were reminded that being respected doesn't mean that you actually have to end up being a champion. So many men put so much pressure on themselves to think that the only way their legacy will ever matter is if they were the absolute best. But last night we had a reminder that this is so far from the truth when we watched Dustin Poirier lay it on the line one more time. And Dustin is one of those individuals that I automatically reminds me of, likens to Donald Cerrone. Neither one of these men were ever able to capture the undisputed UFC championship. But both of these men are loved and respected and adorned wherever they go. Now, it's true we can't put them in the argument for the title of GOAT, the greatest of all time. Their resume doesn't warrant that conversation. But they are clearly, without the shadow of a doubt, first round Hall of Famers in the UFC. And what's more is that when we look at how these men exited the octagon, they exited to more fanfare, more love, more respect than some of the people who were up for the GOAT. And why do we believe that is? It's because we respect the man that shows up every day. And when we look at guys like Dustin and Donald, maybe they didn't have all the attributes. Maybe they didn't have all the tools in the toolbox to get it done like a John Jones, who is, in my opinion, the undisputed GOAT of MMA. But the man has an insane reach. He's a freak athlete. His entire family is freak athletes. And what he's done, even with that tool set, is exemplary. But the plain and simple truth is, John will never be loved. I don't care what anyone says. John will not have the love and the admiration of the fans that Dustin and Donald had. Why? Because in Dustin and Donald, the everyday man can see himself. He can see himself maybe not being genetically blessed. I mean, if you look at pictures of Dustin in high school and say that that guy was going to be a professional athlete, an interim champion, up there with the most wins in the game, one of the longest UFC careers active, where he continued to fight and perform at a high level, much just like Donald Cerrone, you would look at that kid in high school and say there's no chance in hell. But here he is. Why? Because Dustin, despite the pain that came from losing, and he took his losses. He took his losses in high-profile events. We see this with Donald. Donald, one of the big things that the detractors will say about Donald is that he couldn't get it done at the championship level. But the plain and simple truth is, in MMA, there's so many different ways to lose. Just to go on a consecutive win streak is hard in MMA, yet alone to string together 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we're talking about fights where you're not only winning, but you're winning fight of the night bonuses. We look at Donald Cerrone, and he put that one combination together. I forget who it's off the top of my head, but it looked like a video game. Pop, 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 just punches, kicks. It was beautiful. But it was not the talent that endeared them to the MMA community. It was their refusal to quit. It was their refusal to back down after the loss. It was their refusal to allow the embarrassment of falling short on a national stage. And if you've never made a walk to a cage, the plain and simple truth is it's very difficult to wrap your mind around that. When I did my MMA fight, and I only did one MMA fight, I can tell you I did it after coming back from war. And I was more nervous making that walk to the cage than I was rolling down Route Michigan. Why? Because there's this concept of it's all on the line there. I'm laying it out here for you to see whether I stand tall or whether I fall. I'm willing to allow myself to be embarrassed. I'm willing to allow myself the very real possibility of getting my ass beat in front of my wife, in front of my friends. And for those of you that have never been in a fist fight, getting beat is a very, very masculine thing. To get beat and to come back from that. If a man walking by himself along the street took a beating and decided to use that beating as a catalyst to get himself sharp and get himself dangerous and in shape and capable. My hat's off to that man, because so many people would get their ass beat and they would hide from that. Now take this to people that have done this on the national stage. I tell you, if anything else, when you get done watching this video, I highly recommend you jump over to YouTube and you search Donald Cerrone talking about the walk to the cage. And when he talks about that walk to the cage, yes, he's talking about a UFC fight, but guys, if you've ever laid it all on the line, if you've ever been nervous about the outcome of what was going to happen, that conversation that he speaks to will speak to your heart. But the reason those men are loved is not because they're the greatest of all time. They're not. They're damn good. They're great, but they're not the greatest of all time. Those men are head and shoulders above the average man walking around on this planet in terms of self-defense and martial arts. But that's not even why they're great. They're great because they learned, they understood, despite the fear they had in their heart of what it meant to lay it all on the line time and time again. And they showed up, and despite the roadblocks and the hurdles and everything that's standing in front of them, they showed up. These men, they took the hard losses. They didn't blame their coaches. They didn't point their fingers. They just took the beating and still left with their head held high. They felt the shame. They felt the pain. And they said, but again, I'm going to go again. What makes a man a legend has nothing to do with the belt, has nothing to do with the trophies, has nothing even to do with the wins. Does that man have the heart to keep going when every voice inside you is screaming to shut it down? I want you to look at your life. If you feel like you have fallen short, if you feel like you don't have the accolades that you need to impress your children, to leave a legacy that they look up and they go, my father did this, then my friend, all you need to do, all you need to remember is that in order to make sure you give them something to say, stand back up. Just stand back up, because your children will watch and they will know, and there will come a time that matters to the average everyday man. Your Hall of Fame is the way that your kids remember you. Your first round ballot is, will they tell stories? Your grandpa did this. Will they share how proud they were of the man that they looked up to? Not because you may have had the house on the hill, not because you made the most money at work, not because you were the world champion of a sport, but because in front of them and behind closed doors, you were the man that said, one, when you were sore, when you were beat, when you were defeated, when you were heartbroken, when it seemed like everything that you ever fought for was slipping out of your hands, were you the man that kept going? And I promise you, that is what your legacy depends on. Never what you built, but rather how you built it. Follow these legends' example. Stay in the fight. Face the storm one more time. Head down, horns up. And I promise, your legend will be made. Salute.